before cyclone, in the midst of a country of marvelous beauty. There were lovely patches of greensward all about, with stately trees bearing rich and luscious fruits. Banks of gorgeous flowers were on every hand, and the birds, with the rare and brilliant plumage, sang and fluttered in the trees and bushes. A little way off was a small brook, rushing and sparkling along between green banks, and murmuring in a voice very grateful to a little girl who had lived so long on the dry, gray prairies. While she stood up, looking eagerly at the strange and beautiful sights, she noticed coming toward her a group of the queerest people she had ever seen. They were not as big as the grown folk she had always been used to, but neither were they very small. In fact, they seemed as tall as Dorothy, who was a well-grown child for her age, although they were, so far as looks go, many years older. 3 were men and 1 a woman, and all were oddly dressed. They wore round hats that rose to a small point and a foot above their heads, with little bells around the brims that twinkled sweetly as they moved. The hats of the men were blue. The little woman's hat was white, and she wore a white gown that hung in pleats from her shoulders. Over it were sprinkled little stars that glistened in the sun like diamonds. The men were dressed in blue of the same shade as their hats, and wore well-polished boots with a deep roll of blue at the tops. The men, Dorothy thought, were as old as Uncle Henry, for 2 of them had beards, but the little woman was doubtless much older. Her face was covered with wrinkles, her hair was nearly white, and she walked rather stiffly. When these people drew near the house where Dorothy was standing in the doorway, they paused and whispered amongst themselves, as if afraid to come further. But the little woman walked up to Dorothy, made a low bow, and said in a sweet voice, "You are welcome, most noble sorceress, to the land of Munchkins. We are so grateful for having killed the wicked witch of the East and for setting our people freedom from bondage." Dorothy listened to this speech with wonder. What could the little woman possibly mean by calling her a sorceress and saying she had killed the wicked witch of the East? Dorothy was an innocent, harmless little girl who had been carried by a cyclone many miles from home, and she had never killed anything in her life. But the little woman evidently expected her to answer, so Dorothy said with hesitation, "You are very kind, but there must be some sort of mistake. I have not killed anyone." "Your house did anyway," replied the little old woman with a laugh. "And that's the same thing, see?" she continued, pointing to the corner of the house. "There are her 2 toes, still sticking out from under a block of wood." Dorothy looked and gave a little cry of fright. There, indeed, just under the corner of a great beam of the house rested on 2 feet were sticking out, shod in silver shoes with pointed toes. Oh dear," cried Dorothy, clasping her hands together in dismay. "The house must have fallen on her. Whatever shall we do?" "There's nothing to be done," said the little woman calmly. "But who is she?" asked Dorothy. "She was the wicked witch of the East, as I said," answered the little woman. "She had held all the Munchkins in bondage for many years, making them a slave for her night and day. Now they are all another question, but just then the Munchkins, who had been standing silently by, gave a loud shout and pointed to the corner of the house where the wicked witch had been lying. "What is that?" asked the little old woman, and looked and began to laugh. The feet of the dead witch had disappeared entirely. Nothing was left but the silver shoes. She was so old, explained the witch of the north, that she dried up quickly in the sun. "That is the end of her, but the silver shoes are yours, and you shall have them to wear." She reached down and picked up the shoes, and after shaking the dust out and handed them to Dorothy. "The witch of the east was proud of those silver shoes," said the Munchkins, "and there was some charming connection to them, but what it was we never knew." Dorothy carried the shoes into the house and placed them on the table. Then she came out to the Munchkins and said, "I am anxious to get back to my aunt and uncle, for I am sure they will be worried about me. Can you help me find my way?" The Munchkins and the witch first looked at one another and then at Dorothy and then shook their heads. "At the east, not far from here," said one, "there is a great desert, and none could live to cross it." "It is the same as the south," said another, "for I have been there and seen it. The south is a country of the quadlings." "I am told," said the third man, "that it's the same as the west, and the country where the Winkleys live is ruled by the wicked witch of the west, who would make you her slave if you passed her." "The north is my home," said the old lady, "and at its edge is the same great desert that surrounds the land of Oz. I am afraid, my dear, you will have to live with us." Dorothy began to sob at this, for she had felt lonely amongst all these strange people. Her tears seemed to grieve the kind of kind-hearted Munchkins, for they immediately took out their handkerchiefs and began to weep also. As for the little old woman, she took off her cap and balanced the point on the end of her nose while she counted 1, 2, 3 in a solemn voice. At once the cap changed to slate, on which was written in big white chalkboard, "Let Dorothy go to the city of emeralds." The little old woman took the slate from her nose, and having read the words on it, asked, "Is your name Dorothy, my dear?" "Yes," answered the child, looking up, drying her tears. "Then you must go to the city of emeralds. Perhaps Oz will help you." "Where is this city?" asked Dorothy. "It's exactly in the center of the country which is ruled by Oz, the great wizard I told you of." "Is he a good man?" inquired the girl anxiously. "He is a good wizard. Whether he is a man or not, I cannot tell, for I have never seen him." "How can I get there?" asked Dorothy. "You must walk. It's a long journey through a country that is sometimes pleasant and sometimes dark and terrible. However, I will use all the magic arts I know to keep you from harm. Won't you go with me?" pleaded the girl, who had begun to look upon the old woman as her only friend. "No, I cannot do that," she replied, "but I will give you my kiss, and no one will dare injure the person who has been kissed by the witch of the north." She came close to Dorothy and kissed her gently on the forehead where her lips touched. The girl felt a round, shining mark. Where her lips touched, the girl left a round, shining mark, as Dorothy found soon after. "The road to the city of emeralds is paved with yellow brick," said the witch. "You cannot miss it. When you get to Oz, do not be afraid of him, but do tell your story and ask him to help you. Goodbye, my dear." The three Munchkins bowed low to her and wished her a pleasant journey, after which she walked away through the trees. The witch gave Dorothy a friendly little nod, whirled around on her left heel 3 times, and straightway disappeared, much to the surprise of Toto, who barked next